the warmest, most loving, awesome, happy, good, merciful, kind, sweet, beautiful, peaceful welcome to you. This is an episode of Maar. My name is Pietie Beyers, and I'm joined by my co-host in this podcast, Neil Benjamin Kidd. We had the incredible. I'm not sure what exactly. I'm quite stumped how to do this intro because I'm quite lost for words. We approached Joe van Niekerk, ex-Springbok rugby player that went on to play for Toulon in France, captained under 19 schools level. Captained SA schools, captained the under 19 South African team, captained the under 21 South African team. He's played for South Africa, played for Toulon, played provincial. He was like, I spoke to a neighbor of mine recently, and they just said like he was pretty much like a god at his high school, Cares, which is I think it's King Edward VII High School here in Johannesburg. Now you might remember him as Big Joe van Niekerk, and someone recently told me to follow him on Instagram. I think he took like a 5-year Instagram or social media hiatus. After Toulon, when he retired from rugby, he moved to Costa Rica, where he started, it's like a organic farm, but also a healing sanctuary. He'll probably explain it much better than I will. It's called Rama Organica. But you can find out more on his Instagram page. That's a good place to start. His handle on Instagram is Jungle Joe, and he's been posting some incredible content. He's been gone from like super insanely talented, hardworking, positive force rugby player to an amazing, peaceful, just an incredible, harmonious spirit living in Costa Rica. Not that I'm saying rugby players are not harmonious, but obviously they battle on the field. It's great physical contact and great battle, and he speaks about his transition and from who he was until who he is now. And we all on our own paths, of course. And once again, I'm a massive sports fan, and I'm sure there's so many sports people out there with incredible spirits and hearts, and it's just amazing to follow their journeys. Joe van Niekerk has a very unique and special story. He's a phenomenal individual. Almost, it will be sacrilegious saying, I don't know if that's the word, saying he's like got like a Jesus-like quality. But if you see him on the photo that I've posted, or you follow Jungle Joe, you'll see he's got the long hair and sort of the strong, sort of almost a biblical look to him. And then he's got this incredibly kind, generous, compassionate heart that goes with it. Listen to this. Listen, please enjoy this conversation. We started with rugby and sort of ended in heaven, and it's not the end. It's just the beginning. This is the start of a beautiful connection with Joe, with you guys, the listeners, and I'm just glad you're listening to this. Enjoy this amazing conversation. You are part of this. We're all part of this life. One love and all of that, those cliches, but it's really true. There's one powerful force like goodness and love, and I hope you experience it through the course of this episode. Much love and all the very best to you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hey. Lovely.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much. So great to be here with you both.
Yes, huge fans, by the way, of the old Joe and the new Joe, if I can call it that.
That's great.
The eternal Joe. So just to introduce ourselves, this is Neil. This is the guy you spoke to, Neil Kidd.
Neil Kidd, okay.
My name is Pietie Beyers. How's it, Joe? Dude, I just want to say, like, we know we're just like two random people that may message you. we are so grateful for your time and your spirit and your energy. I think we're going to have we're going to zone, bro. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolute pleasure. It's always an honor to meet and be able to share. And so I'm also grateful for the opportunity to sit with you both today.
Fantastic. Joe, let's start off by just asking you how you are. How are you doing?
So it was Pete, and sorry, and your name?
Neil.
Neil, sorry, thanks, Neil. Neil, your brother, all is well. Obviously, we're in Costa Rica now, which is a completely different chapter in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, some pretty tumultuous things happening around the planet at the moment, and just trying to stay focused on sharing the light and love, you know.
Yes. I
Joe,
mean, this is. I think this is like the time that the work that you're doing now is really, I think, coming to its cause. I suppose it's difficult to reach out at this point in time because I mean you can't really get people at the resort now. But do you try and reach out via the internet, like just sort of tap into people's lives, or how are you dealing with the pandemic?
Well, yeah, at the moment, I kind of shifted my mindset around it because when it first sort of came up, I had thought to myself, well, what's the best way that we now can relate to other people? And obviously with all the social distancing and these things, it makes it really hard to, you know, embrace another human being. And
Yeah.
so that's been a challenge in a lot of ways. But through this medium, through this platform, I found that I'd been off the internet for about 5 years. I went into kind of the wilderness in a sense. And
spiritual wilderness. I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was. I love your beard, by the way, bro.
Thanks, bro. It was supposed to be for a movie, so I'm an actor, and then the movie got postponed. So now I'm just like cruising with
it. Yeah, man. Like I miss my beard when I see that.
But you're looking fresh, bro. You like for real. Like I know we don't know each other personally yet, but
yeah.
or maybe in a previous life we were fucking all, I don't know, swimming as dolphins together or some shit. But like you're looking good, bro. You're looking really healthy, man.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. Yeah, no, man. It's been as I say, there's a lot's come up over the last couple of years since finishing playing. But yeah, it's been as I say, it's been a lot of growth and a lot of inner work. And yeah, it led me to Costa Rica, obviously. But yeah, just to go back to Neil with the situation currently, obviously I have seen this as a kind of a period of awakening for a lot of people too, you know, being with themselves at their home and not being able to go out. It brings up a lot, you know. And so there's been a lot of, I would say that if you look at that in a kind of in a positive way, there can be growth through this period. And I know that a lot of people are waking up to, you know, their own immunity, where they are in their own lives related to health. And so yeah, so you can it's one of those things, like you can become the victim of your situation, or you can, you know, turn that around and use that situation as a platform to actually grow in a different way. So that's the way that I perceive this whole thing. Obviously it's tough for people, you know, being in a small apartment, or you know, not being able to go out into nature. It's got there's a lot of restrictions, you know. So but you know, where we are right now it's kind of a big blessing in a lot of ways. And we foresaw that 4 years back, where we had been consciously kind of aware that these things can arise on the planet right now. It's not the easiest time on the planet at this moment, you know. So we saw this 4 years ago, and our kind of vision for moving forward was to find a place, a farm, organic produce, create our own fruits and vegetables, have our own drinking water, and then obviously shelter. So the basic needs would be met, and then from there, obviously all the other abundance and joy that comes from just being out here in the jungle.
And Joe, you talk about we. Who's we?
So I have a partner that we came together and we created this farm, which is basically a healing sanctuary. We created it together. So we're 50-50 partners in the project.
And if Niekerk, if I may, I'm so excited, man, because I think you seem like Neil and I, like, just to give you some background, like both of us are massive sports fans, right? So we actually both Afrikaans. I've even got my Springbok jersey on under this, by the way.
Yes, brother.
but so I've got my Springbok jersey on, and I've got tattoos under it. So I'm also like I appreciate this world and all its things, but I'm also like I see myself as a bit of a searcher in the way that I just like. Sometimes I think too deep, but I really appreciate what you put out there, man. Like, ever since you've been playing, and we'll go back there now and we'll do some like lacquer. We just want to go to with what you're comfortable with, what you want to share, because we just, as I said, appreciative. But like a while ago, a guy I know said like, dude, do you follow Joe van Niekerk on Instagram? I was like, I just remember him like as this absolutely legendary eighth man, you know? And he was like, dude, follow Jungle Joe. You must see, his stuff is epic. And he was telling me, this guy's like I think he was actually at, in Cares College as well, in Cares here in Joburg. And he was like, but he's like my age, or he's a bit young, he's like 30. And he was like, dude, you should check it out. This guy, like Joe, replies to pretty much everyone's comment. He's just like amazing. And so what I want to say is like, I think you look like you're in such a, you may have always been, but you're in such a humble space that you might not even notice that the light you put out there, you're in Costa Rica. Yes, it's being picked up, but like, it's really being picked up. Like I see it. And even here, like in Joburg, I live in Joburg now, Neil's in Cape Town. Brew, you put out a post like a few days ago that was like about, look, I've got quite a lot of struggles with anxiety and stuff. And you were talking about like love yourself first. And Neil and I, we checked your podcast with AJ Fenter, like just doing a research. And bro, I just want to say like all the way here from South Africa, I'm sure you get it, but like for real, man, you're not just putting it into a void. Like you're putting it out there, and the world, we're picking it up, man, and we're appreciating it, dude.
Wow, bro, like, that means so much. And I'm humbly grateful for that message and for that sharing that you just shared, because then at least I'm aware of the work that we are doing and the process that we've been going through, and that it is helping other beings, or it's touching their lives in a positive way. And I think that's partly part of the process of what we are wanting to share. And also just the frequency, the living from the heart, this kind of frequency. You talked about it earlier about gratitude. There's so many things that, people may hear the word, but they kind of, they glance at it and then they just move on. And there's no real introspection. And when you say to me that you go deep, I love that, because what's wrong with going deep? Yeah, man, we're here to experience this to the fullness of what it's about. And if we are life itself, we always say we're living life. We are life.
You can say, we are fucking life. I love that shit. You're right, bro. But you're right. It's like, but I know what you mean. It's like the channel's not going through us. The force isn't going through us. We are the force.
Both. And that's the thing. When you realize that you are the mystery unfolding, it's like then you start to really see the universe in a different light, because it's like, it's not that this is like this external world outside of us. There's things happening. It's inside of us, and we are that. And so it's when that comes through, it's very, what the power with it though is like, being able to step aside. You know, like what I mean is like just from the psychological mind, that ego part of us that wants to hold on, that's got all those concept beliefs, all of those things, is like kind of stepping aside so that the frequency can really work through you. And when you allow that to happen, don't get me wrong, like obviously there are days where something will come up and I'll see it's a pattern, or I'll see it's a behavioral thing that I've been doing since I was 5 years old or something. And so it's kind of about being aware of that. And then at some point we all have to just chop it, you know what I mean? And when that day comes, thank God it will come, you know, but whatever your beliefs are, but there is a presence that's here that a lot of times we because we're so distracted in our lives, and there's so many external doings and things that we need to take care of in our daily life, it's almost as if we miss the essence of what we are. And then the exploration of that brings us to that presence where it's almost like as if there's a nothingness there, but it's that quote which I love. It's like, you are nothing yet you are everything. And it's like, so there's that, and we at times we touch on that, but it's not like, you know, obviously the spiritual masters that are teaching this and just reflecting that light and reflecting the true self. Because I think like a lot of times the ego has got us into a lot of trouble in our lives, you know. And when I say the ego, it's not the part of the ego that's protective. There's nothing wrong with that. We have this ego for a reason, but it's the part of the ego that it's like almost there's a smell to it, like a tinge. It's like me, that whole, like, it's about me and it's my trip and it's my journey. And so there's that aspect of it. But yeah, I think it's a lot of it's got to do with just unlearning a lot of the things that we've learned. And then by becoming more and more empty in a way, then that frequency can really flow through us.
Yeah, Joe, just as you're talking now, I'm getting sort of a vision of a river with a strong current, and you sort of crossing the river, you know that you should just go with the current, but everything that's happened up until a certain point in your life has told you to do whatever you can not to go with the current. And then at one point in time, you just sort of go, well, I'm just going to let go and just go with it. But what I want to know from you is that obviously doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you've had a long, successful career where you've been in the limelight for many years, in the news, in the press. I mean, that's obviously one factor of your life. And this is basically, in a way, almost giving up all of that. And what I want to know is how did that transition take place?
So that's a beautifully loaded question. It's actually a beautiful question in a lot of ways, because when we're brought up, I don't know about you, to both of you, but when we were brought up in South Africa, you know, I was brought up a lot of the way to kind of condition in a way that success was everything, you know, and that achievement was the goal, and that in life, if we weren't somebody, then, you know, what are we? And that's within the social circles. And so from a very young age, I was always like, oh, we've got to perform at sport, we've got to perform at this, we've got to do well, we've got to succeed. And in that way, it really builds this big kind of, if I can say, like a lot of layers, you know, of conditioning. And so when I first looked into this was really towards the end of my career, and playing in Toulon, as I started to like introspect and look inward. I wasn't being selected anymore, and it was the first time in a long time that I wasn't just in the team, on the team list straight away, you know. And so I started to really reflect about that situation. And specifically for the last 6 months of playing in Toulon, I wasn't in the team anymore, and I'd been an integral part throughout the whole development of the team, captaining and doing stuff in the like core of the team. And so this started to arrive for me, and it happens to all rugby players. I think most sportsmen go through this process of almost dying, you know, in a sense, because you've done something for your whole entire life, and then now you get to a point where you're not the number one anymore. And so that just in that moment, I really started to reflect. And then I thought to myself, you know, all these boykies that are playing rugby and they're in teams, when they're not in the mix, it's like, oh, that guy's a dick. Oh, I'm better than him. You know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just, and I'm consciously aware of it because I've been playing now. I'm 30. I think I was 33 years old. So I was aware of it, and I said to myself, you know, I don't think I'm gonna see this in the same way, and I'm gonna actually start to look inward, and that led me to a lot of Buddhist principles and what happened with the Buddhists, with the Chinese, and all of that, and how they perceived certain situations in their lives. And was me not being in the team, was that really as bad as some of the atrocities that take place on this planet, and how difficult that may be? But in my world and my vision, oh, this is a big thing, you know.
100%.
So yeah, so I really started to reflect on that, and then I made it a point. Every single day I went into training for those last like 6 months, I would go to the training with Mursa passion and a lot of fire, and be like, yeah, I'm holding bags, but I'm going to hold the bags the best that I can, you know, kind of thing. And I would go to the coach every day. I'd look at him and I'd smile and I'd say, Coach, how are you? And like, not like become that person that would be like, oh, he's not selecting me. Oh, he's a dick. And I'm going to separate from this guy now, and I'm going to separate from the team. And so I think just the fact that looking inward and starting to do research on spirituality, on how the Buddhists would approach certain situations, and seeing that my situation was not that big a deal, and that this happens to most sportsmen and most rugby players when they're coming to the end of their career. So I think that in that 6 months, I learned a hell of a lot. And believe me, it was hard for my ego. Obviously, my ego was like, shit, you should be there, you know? And so I had that going on too, which was interesting. And when you start to do that reflection, you start to see that. And so that definitely transformed the energy for me in a way. It was still a hard process, but through that process, I grew a lot, and I was able to, when the team, at the end of the competition, the team won everything. They won the Heineken Cup again, and they won the top 14 again. And so it was absolutely massive. And I kind of just joined in the flow of like being there with the boykies, and positive, and yes, we're amazing work, and just giving the youngsters a lot of positive vibes, and you keep going and doing it, and keep playing the way you're playing, and through that process, they won everything. And at the end of the day, I retired, and it really helped that transition, no doubt.
Neil, I love this. I already feel like I'm going to say, like, I've got so much love for you, Joe. It's amazing, man. I'm like, there's so many ways. There's so many places I want to go. Like, because I've done a lot of research, not only about like, I've read up, just not only as a sports fan, just as a person that's interested in human beings as well. And I can't wait to get to closer to where you are now. I know, like, at university, I wrote a movie script about a guy that these group of friends went to Africa Burn, and they like came upon these people, and there was like this. So I know I know about this. I know a little bit about shamanism, and about some of the like rituals and ayahuasca but I know these things are things that only obviously happen later in Costa Rica and lots of these things. So before we come closer to almost like the deep work, if you Neil, if you're okay with it, I would love to go back and we can just visit there for a while, because my neighbor told me the other day, he was like, I said, oh my gosh, James, he was in St. John's here in Joburg. Neil and I are both from Cape Town, and he was like, yeah, he remembered. So you were in Cares, I believe, King Edward's here in Joburg, and he was like, dude, Joe van Niekerk was a god at school. Like, but he's like, dude, you have no idea. Like, he was, because, and then I saw like you were under 19, you were SA schools captain, under 19 school, and I know these are ego things as well, but it was also like, I even saw you after interviews in games, like even like there's the pre-Joe, post-Joe, whatever, but it's all Joe, actually. Like, it all comes from the same essence. And I could see your positivity, like post-match interviews, you would have this big smile, just good vibe. And he would say like, you were SA school captain, under 19 SA captain, under 21 SA captain, Toulon captain. I just quickly want to go back to that and just say like, I saw your email address when Neil and I set up the Zoom call, is Johan van Niekerk. So my first question is, do you come from Afrikaans background? And secondly, how did you experience as like, because you're like a good looking, super talented force, apparently god of Cares College. Like, how was that experience, bro?
Ek praat my Afrikaans is 'n bietjie sleg.
Ja, daai klink
Ek praat nie baie Afrikaans. maar my pa was Afrikaans.
Okay.
My dad was Afrikaans on his side, and he grew up in Bloemfontein in the Free State. So, and then he married my mom, and she's English origin. So,
okay.
And then they were together, and so through the roots. Obviously, when we were playing back then, it was a real honor to be with some of those men, because of the way they play rugby is top, But your brother, no, the school days. Whew, I must say that I think that's where it all began. It's when there was nothing better to me than being in those teams and the camaraderie, the gees, the spirit. Schoolboy rugby, man. It like gives me goosebumps, but it brings me lekker gees, and the boykies play for each other, and yeah. So my days back in King Edward VII were some of the best days of playing, actually. Just highly enjoyed my years there. I think I started playing maybe when I was 16 in the first side, and then I used to play out on the wing when I was 14 years old. But like I'd get the ball, and then I'd be like, oh, there's guys here, I'm gonna run sideways. So I just cut it sideways, and then the coach goes, listen, run straight. And I'm like running sideways. I remember I missed, the guys couldn't tackle me, but I was hurtling the other way. And eventually, I think I got demoted to the B side for some time in the under 14s. And then the very next year, they put me into the second row, and I had the Adrian Richter headband, and I was full on, man. And that year actually had one of the best years of playing rugby, because they put me into the engine room, but I had a bit of pace. I had pace. So I was in there, I was locking it with the boykies, but I could move. So it was actually great being a tight forward and having a bit of pace,
And were you a flanker then, or an eighth man?
So in that first year, in the second year, so in my second year of high school, I got moved to the second row, so to the lock position, and then from the year after that, I moved to the flanker and number 8, and then I went through, and it was actually at the Craven Week that I realized, wow, maybe I can play this game, maybe there's a chance to play rugby after school. And so, and then from that point, all the teams, obviously making the South African schools side was one of the biggest honors as a schoolboy. And it was just like surreal in a lot of ways, And so that was my school days, but such beautiful memories, man. Like just.
But Joe, something I want to ask, great, like everyone that grew up in a South African school played rugby at some time in their life. Yeah. I think it's pretty much, I think it's unavoidable. But I was always a bit scared, for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
If you just have that. There's always someone bigger than you. Like you look at this guy, you go, "Oh my God, look at this guy!" Like
it's always like
he's going to take the shit out of me.
Like, oh shit! Look how big they are.
Yeah, look how big they are. Yeah.
That's exactly the thing. That's exactly the thing. We used to line up, and sometimes we would see the other team warming up. Now, like we used to come up against Monument and Afus.
Yes.
So these are like big schools in the country, and we used to notice them warming up and say, yes, but that oak is massive. And sometimes these oaks would be like 19 years old. So you can imagine this guy's a beast, but he's 19 even. So it's like, okay, I'm 16. But
these oaks are failing school. That's why.
No, but it's not even that they're failing, man. It's like the coaches are like, hey, well, you want to stay back one more year, man? It's lucky. You can eat at the tuck shop for free. You can do anything. You're gonna be the main man. I remember one of those matches we played against Monument, and they came to our grounds, and yes, but these boykies were massive, and it was. Monas, yes, and I just remember we always used to fear them because they, not fear in a way, but we used to see and be like, wow, okay, we're in for a big one here. But the Oaks, the guys, a lot of them had like shaved heads, so it was like super intimidating, You'd see these Oaks and think, yes, but these Oaks are gonna rock the cock out of us. Don't get stuck in the engine room because done.
But Joe, that's what I wanted to ask you. You were always a big guy, but were you ever scared at school? Like, did you get scared, or were you just sort of, I'm just going to go out there and do my thing?
I don't know. I kind of always gravitated to contact. I always love to run into contact, and also part of my breeding was because I was a boarder at school, so we would go to from Monday to Friday, or Monday to Saturday, we'd be at the school, at boarding school. So we used to play every single day. The boarders, we would play, kind of start off with touch rugby, and then it would turn into full on league rugby. Like we would basically smash each other. And then normally what would happen in Joburg would be those thunderstorms and the rain. And we would still stay out there and continue smashing each other. And I truly feel that part of that breeding was breeding us for the contact and getting us used to smashing other guys and getting into those situations. But yeah, I think fear does arise for sure, especially when you're playing teams like the All Blacks, because you don't want to make a mistake. You kind of like, shit, man.
Especially when you're 21 years old.
When you're 21 years old, especially, bro, you like, this is your first match you're ever playing in senior rugby, and it's against the All Blacks at Newlands, and
dude, it's raining.
And it's raining. It's like, oh shit. Like, what? I'm sitting on the bench thinking, shit, hopefully maybe I won't go on, it may be better. But then, but yeah, and even at the best of times, to catch a ball at Newlands when it's raining a lot like that, it's tough, and there's a lot of mud. But
dude,
but no,
I remember that game. I remember that game quite well. It was I think it's the most intense game of rugby I've ever watched in my life. It wasn't a high scoring game, I remember. I think it was only penalties.
Yeah.
But it was so intense, dude. Yeah. Like
No,
I can't
I
even
mean,
imagine how it must have felt as a player, but as a fan, it was like heart-wrenching to watch.
yeah, because it's like when that rain sets in, then it's like you can't beat someone with pace. It's
Yeah.
kind of then you get stuck in those quarters, like the tight quarters, or you really feel the crunch. And then they've got guys like Jonah Lomu, Case Muse, Anton
Yeah.
Oliver, Tane Randall, like all these hard beasts. And it's just like, okay, well, now we're up against it. But I suppose we had guys like Andre Venter, we had beasts as well. So it's like just
Yes, that's oh my gosh. So just before we finish off with cares, were you like man's man or also like ladies man kind of popping? Because apparently we're God on all levels, but were you like kind of also going to like the house parties, mingling with the girls, that kind of vibe, or was it like just rugby all the way and singular focus? What was your vibe?
my vibe was definitely, I always used to love heading out, and specifically after games, there was also like, you were the cool group or the cool kids, you like would go out with the boys. I had girlfriends through my kind of would say like from 16 years old to around 18. I had girlfriends at school, but it was actually a good thing, I felt, that we were boarders, because I mean, and also I even contemplated this. Imagine you had gone to like a co-ed school when you started high school, and I wondered how that dynamic would have changed, it shifted things. I mean, I know like someone like James Small, I think he went to what's the school in Johannesburg? I think, but it's a co-ed school, and it's a different kind of vibe, But I sometimes do contemplate that. I said, what happens if I would have gone to one of those schools? But anyway, I didn't end up going. So yeah, for me it was great, because in the week we were super focused on the job at hand, and then of course we used to have our Saturday night scorp and just getting down on the dance floor and all of that, for sure.
Dude, Neil, can I hoy, Neil?
Yeah, go for it, man.
So I've got quite a few questions lined up here, and I see if you I mean, take a sip of water, do your thing. Not going to keep you all day. By the way, what's the time there in Costa Rica now?
Exactly as you say, 11:33. Boom.
In the morning.
In the morning, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fresh. Nice. So I see this thing's going to time out in about 5 minutes. If it's cool with you guys, we just click on the other link that I sent just now. If it times out, and then we just keep on cruising. But just before that. And Neil, just chip in, because I've got quite a few interesting things lined up just as we cruise along.
Just before you get there, I just want to tell you about my situation. I'm getting load shedding in a half an hour.
Oh, serious?
Yeah. So
okay.
That's back, by the way. So that means my internet is gone. So I'm going to drop out probably then. I'm going to last as long as I can. But
okay.
You and Peter are going to continue. So just so you know, if I just disappear, that's...
Then we know.
If it goes dark.
By the way, Neil, just to come back to something that Joe said earlier, right? And I want to continue with Joe now, because I want to ask, I'm always fascinated, like as a fan, right? I was also Musa scared on the field. I was like this pseudo fucking punk rocker at high school, thinking I'm a rebel, whatever. Meanwhile, I was like a closet rugby fanatic, I was like pretending to be a punk rocker, but actually I would wake up every Saturday morning, fucking I would know everyone in every Super 12 team. It used to be still Super 12,
Oh, yeah.
So I was fucking, and you would always wonder, like, I wonder who gets along in the team. I was always like, I wonder who is Joe van Niekerk, who's like, and I'm sure there's different dynamics and there's different friend groups or whatever. And I would always wonder, like, are there friendships like you mentioned Andre Venter, are there people that you still have contact with, or when you see them, it's still like, yo, my brother, you're maybe on different spaces in your life, but I suppose in that camaraderie, are there particular individuals that you remember like really connecting with that we might know of?
Yeah, I think when I first started playing for the Springboks, I was really close to Marius Jubé, because we came, yeah, Juba. So Juba was Juba and me. I know Juba had a similar thing. He played, I think he started playing for Boland when he was 19 years old, and he was just hitting the outside gap and just caning guys. And then he also got selected into the Springbok mix at the same time. So I think it was a natural thing that we kind of gravitated towards each other, and we were roomies for a long time after that. And yeah, and if you say, like, if I see certain players now after the game, after 6 years after playing, I definitely feel that it would be like nothing's changed, but he was the first one. And then also guys like Brayton Polser originally was also just such a king, beautiful heart.
He looks like such a friendly guy.
Just such a beautiful human being, a heart of gold. And then there was more. There was Bola Conradi. There were a lot of friends in those initial teams, and so it went on, of course. But I don't necessarily speak on a daily basis with all of them. But yeah, there's definitely a link.
Yes.
And
the connection will always be there.
The connection will always be there, yeah, just from going through those processes together. And
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Joe. I hate interrupting you. I see it's gonna can we click on the other link and then we just keep on flowing, guys?
For sure, brother. Let's do it. So I'm going to leave and go on the next one.
Yes. Second half. Sweet.
Perfect.
Lekker.
Thanks, guys.
We're back.
We're back in it. Neil, shoot, bro. If you want to ask something.
I was just thinking about, Joe, that where you talk about Marius Jubé, that was that particular South African side that won the Tri-Nations. Is that right?
Yes.
We had DeWet Barry on the inside.
Exactly. DeWet Barry on the inside, Marius Jubé outside. I think, I don't know if Bola played 9. I don't remember who was actually on 10.
I'm trying to remember as well now. Yeah, like it could have been, I can't remember it was, but
AJ Fenter in the flanks, and Skalkberger.
Oh, yes. They all played together, that's right.
And John de Villiers was on the wing then.
I think John de Villiers on the wing.
Yes, that's a power team, eh?
Potent team. I don't know why I can't remember the 10 right now. Was it Andre Pretorius?
Yeah, I think
it would have been Andre Pretorius, yeah.
Andre Pretorius, yeah. No, potent team. That's actually after the 2003, when Jake came into the position of coach, director of rugby, and that was like the first year of the players that he brought together, and that's where he started like the nucleus of the core group of players, which was like Victor Matfield, Bakkies Botha, Urs Durant, like all these legends, put them all together, and then kind of created like the nucleus. He had the nucleus of the team, and then outside of that, didn't really change positions. And that team then won the Tri-Nations that year, and then went on to greater heights and actually won the World Cup. But what a master stroke,
Is there? Can you? With all respect to everyone, is there because you name so many legends, right? Including yourself. I mean, you are among them. So it's like, is there a coach or one or two players that stand out with that you could realize were just not on a different level, but led by example? Just that's a talent that they say where there's always that thing about Messi versus Ronaldo. I heard an interesting thing. They said Ronaldo is the best person, soccer player on earth, but Messi's not human, or something like that. is there anyone you can single out that was like really uniquely like on a different level in terms of player or coach?
Well, I just, whenever you ask a question like that, I really, I get the goosebumps because when I think back and I think the quality and specifically South Africa in the loose forwards, and then obviously as that team grew together, every single position was world class, But like some of the guys in the loose forwards, I've never seen a person throw themselves the way that they do at a ruck, like Skalkberger did, like the guy was like an absolute beast, and then you've got a guy like Juan Smith, who's probably one of the best players like I've ever played with, ever. Like, and then like that's just in South Africa, and then you can go even further into the loose forwards, like Pierre Spies, like what specimens of athletes, South Africa seem to produce. It's beyond me, and when I think back about it and just thinking like, yes, we were playing with those guys on a regular basis, it's pretty surreal, to be sitting here now, because I remember how they used to run into a ruck, or how they used to clean someone, or how they used to hit someone, and that, like, the hair on your body kind of stands up now, because I don't know what frame of mind I would be in now to be hit by one. It'd be like, like, finish, sleep, rest in peace, I'm out of here, ciao.
Skalkberger looks like such a guy to like chill. He's off the field, he's a chill guy. Then when he gets on, it's madness.
Yeah, I think that's part and testament to like a true champion, like he's able to switch off when he's out, he's off, he's switched off. But when he's there, it's like on the forefront of everything, So, and then, that's just to mention a few. We could sit here for days and just go in. I mean, some of the guys as well. One guy that I played with at Toulon, which was also another, like, just one of the hardest players I've played with, is Chris Masoe. Chris Masoe was honestly like one of the hardest players, and just always get you on the front foot, always. And then there were other guys like the late Jerry Collins, just an absolute beast.
That was an absolute beast. He
wow.
was, geez, like
honestly,
just the pure size. I mean,
no, and some days, like, when even at Toulon, when I would look around the change room, I would just be like, where am I? Like the the Galacticos, like
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
This huge guys everywhere.
Please, like, honestly, and then also, it's another thing is I have to mention his name, but Bucky Sportser, like, everyone knows this, the enforcer, but I don't know if there's ever going to be a player of that quality, or that, I'm sure there will be in time, but I don't know, it's like one of those things where you just, obviously the South African team and where they progressed now and winning the World Cup was also just another, what can I say? Just so incredible beyond of what they did. So, and then there's players within that too. So it's really hard. But just from what I can share with you both is it was an absolute honor to play with these players, to be on the same field as them, and to go to battle. And that's what it basically comes down to. It's you or the other guy. You have to dominate him, or he dominates you. And so it's just this. It's like going into the gladiator ring and let's go. And so that's definitely essentially what that game, the essence of that game. Obviously there's a whole lot more, but it's like, are you going to be dominated, or are you going to dominate? And so,
and Joe, that's one of the things that I wanted to chat to you about briefly is you get to the point where everyone, and you look at Fijians and Samoans and those type of guys, everyone, you talk about size. I mean, these guys are all the same size. Some of them are much bigger than you are. But at a certain point in time, you get to the point where you say it's more a mental game than anything else. And that's where the clever rugby players really, like Farida Priya comes to mind, and Juan Smith, like those two guys in the 2007 World Cup, I think and Jacques Fourie as well, I suppose. But there were a couple of them, but it was all extremely clever players. And I wanted to find out from you, is that something that you would realize on a rugby field, that, okay, this guy's big, but he's also like super clever. Like you can see exactly what this guy wants to do and what his game plan is.
Yeah, and so when we were younger, the whole idea was like you would always match yourself in size to another player in a way.
Yes.
And like, so you would, even when we were 18 years old, or that was the whole kind of mentality as a player growing up, like, am I going to be big enough? Am I going to be strong enough? And so when you came up against, I remember us playing, I think Cats, we played against like Transvaal versus Free State for the Cats, in the Cats trials to be selected.
Amazing.
And we had
Cats.
the Cats.
Amazing.
So we had guys like, we had Andre Venter, which was like also another beast, like, and we had Rassie Erasmus. And
Yes.
but you would always weigh yourself up in terms of the size. And I think when you're a younger player wanting to prove yourself, you're always thinking in the back of your mind, it's always like, am I strong enough? Am I big enough? And you just want to get big so you can hold your own with some of these other players that have been around for a while. And then, as you say, that kind of fades away. And then obviously you have to keep up a certain standard. And I think that's where Jake brought that standard in, where he had like parameters for each position, for each for the team, and you had to meet those standards just to be considered in the team. But it kind of
was scientific.
It's scientific based, but then it shifted from being a youngster wanting to be big to being like, okay, cool, now it's going into a different phase. And the being big was not, once you've been there and you've played against these men and you see, okay, I can hold my own, then you kind of get confidence. And then through that confidence, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. And then once that happens, then you can mix it. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was like the 2007 World Cup, was that in the training camps before that, I really took to heart what the coaches wanted, and I kind of trained nonstop before those camps in the gym, and with one of the ex coaches for the Springbok side, one of the ex conditioning coaches for the Springbok side, Steve Mack. And we trained like 2.5 hours a day, 2.5 hours in the morning, to like an hour in the evening, like constantly just gymming and getting strong. And in some way, like I took that on and I really became a little bit obsessed about getting strong and being able to push a certain weight. So I think if I can share anything, was that your abilities and your skills as a player, don't neglect what makes you unique as a player. You know, if you've got speed and skills, concentrate on your speed and skills and make them the best that they can be, because that will set you apart from the rest. But what I kind of did is I adopted that and I said, oh, I've got to get strong. And then what happened is I pushed the weight very easily, what I had to push, but I ended up hurting my disc in my back. And from that process, I was totally out of the 2007 World Cup. So there was a big lesson in that too. And I think that's what I like to share for the youngsters, is that if you have certain skills, you know, look at your weaknesses, but don't make that the focus. Focus on what you're good at and continue to just be the best at that. And if you're the best at that, like, your weaknesses will slowly get better. You don't have to now say, oh, I need to do this. Just focus on what your strengths are.
That's so true. Like,
Good lesson for life as well.
no, it is. I mean, even like, I don't know a lot about business, but I know there's like this 80-20 rule or something. And it's like, if you focus on the things that you're good at, the rest, it's like, let's take it, for instance, if Cheslin Colby was just trying to get as big as possible, he wouldn't have made all of those breaks and been so, he was like, his speed, and thank you, Rassi, for seeing that. But I mean, like, he was like doubling down on his strengths. And that is what, by the way, did you manage to see could you watch the World Cup final in Costa Rica this year? I mean, last year.
No, actually, I didn't watch it live, but I managed to catch. I obviously I saw that South Africa won the World Cup, but then I managed to see. I mean, yeah, some of the Cheslin's steps and things, and really top. Just for a final as well, they really put it to them, man. Really did.
100%. Neil, I'd love to get to yeah, your load shedding is gonna happen soon. So you must throw another 2 questions before you.
Yeah, so guys, if my screen just suddenly goes dark, don't get a fright. It's all part of the process.
And you can't. Oh yeah, no internet, eh?
There's no internet, so that's the difficulty. But please, once I go off, I want you to dive deep, because I need to hear. I'm gonna listen as a listener after that as to how this whole transition worked. But before my last question, I just want to get in is how did you feel going to France after being in SA for so long? Was it a big transition for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it a great new challenge, or at the time were you sort of thinking, damn, this is all a bit too much? I would have probably enjoyed myself more staying back home. Or how did you feel about all of that?
I at the time, it was kind of a bit of a precarious stage in my process there, because I got injured, and then towards the end of that year, both my contract with South African Rugby and with Provincial Western Province was coming to an end. So I had been in search of a new contract, and what happened is I got a lifeline from Northampton Saints, and I actually went over there. I did a full-on medical, everything, and they said, "You're right. It's awesome. We want you to be here for 3 years. It's going to be solid," and they were really keen on me going to play there. And I went back to South Africa after the medical, and they just didn't reach out again. And I kept thinking, well, what's going on? And subsequently, they were actually in a relegation battle, and they actually lost, so they got relegated. And then what happened is they actually, the media that came back, or the press that came back, was that I was injured and that my back, I couldn't play rugby anymore. And at that moment, it was like a big blow, because I was just, I didn't have any other contracts, and this contract I was supposed to follow through with, but then that didn't materialize. And then they pointed it to my lower back not being right. But then what happened was I got a call from Eugene Eloff, which was my old coach, who I got on supremely well with. I respected immensely for all of his everything, just the human being that he is too. And he said to me, "Listen, come back to Johannesburg and we'll get you back in shape and you will get back into the mix." And all of that happened. I went back, I started training, I played, I was kind of rigorous with everything that I did. I was watching my eating, I was, getting treatments, I was training really hard, all of those things. And then I got reselected back into the Springbok side, played a 50th test, and in that time, I got the call to go to Toulon, and it was just perfect timing, because what the thing that happened with Northampton Saints kind of got squashed. These guys said that my back was injured. I went back. Subsequently, actually, I played about over 130 games of rugby after they had said that my back was no good.
That's amazing.
So,
wow.
Yeah, so it was just
That's
like,
huge.
but that's also, that gave me impetus too, you know, motivation to be like, oh, you saying this, like, let's see. And so I went to Toulon and I really embraced it. I think I became Francaise, you know. I'm a, I'm a, I'm a, I'm a South African Frenchman, if you know what I mean. And now
Yeah.
Costa Rican. So yeah.
I remember, was Eugene Elof, did they call him Lofi? Or was that, I remember. There's Neil. Neil's been load shedded, bro.
Is it?
Yeah. But I can somewhere on his behalf, I know how special and awesome this was for him as well, man. So thank you, bro.
Ah,
Listen, dude.
sure, brother.
Okay, so I remember, yeah, Lofi, right? Was it Lofi? Yeah, Lofi. Yeah, I remember. There was people had a lot of fondness for him.
Yeah, I think he was really good with the players, like man management. And I still actually speak to him now and then. We chat with each other, and I have a really special place in my heart for him because I actually started with he was the one that selected me when I was like 19 years old to go and play in the under 21 provincial team. And he was the coach. And I think that year we won the Curry Cup with the under 21s.
Wow.
And he was just like he's a beautiful soul and just an amazing coach, you know. And so he gave me that lifeline to actually go back, and I just went back to the drawing board and kind of really focused on getting back into the mix.
And Joe, okay, so you captained Toulon, and you guys also had great success there. By the way, how many can I know I saw the AJ Fender podcast was so cool, by the way. Just the way, like, you know what I find, and this is not even on my like list of questions, I'm just like flowing here now. I'm just thinking, like, you know what's so cool, and maybe you can connect with this, is like, because I've been through my personal, like, all kinds of things, trying to find my identity in this way and that way, and so much of life is unlearning, you know, and getting closer to our just humanity. And it's almost like just getting close to what the spirit. And it's so beautiful to me, like AJ, also this hard man, you know, tough, like used to be such a tough guy in the field. And I know he's also had his fair share of like mental health, like things and whatever, as I have, as we all on a path or a journey or whatever you want to call it, right? And it was so beautiful to me, like, there's obviously, like, all rugby players have their own paths after rugby, this side way, that way, and yours is quite a distinct one, you know. We're going to Costa Rica, and I'd love to get there now. But your humanity shines through, and you could see how AJ, also like a fellow rugby player, but also like a human being and a brother, he was just like, I could see he was in awe. You guys connected as spirits in that moment, and he was like, screw all the layers, and with no disrespect to anything, he's just like, you guys see each other's spirits, which is beautiful.
Yeah, Pete, that's exactly the way I would put it, actually. You know, AJ Fenter, I had so much respect for him back in the day and playing ruggers with him, and he was, like you say, he was always the hardest man around, you know. And just his personal journey too. He's been through a lot. He lost, you know, his heart was broken, and he came through a lot. And just really, really such a wonderful thing to sit with him in that space, having gone through all of the trials and tribulations of playing professional rugby and coming through that, and being able to sit as just two human beings and just kind of concur around a lot of stuff and chat. And he's also just such a heartfelt human being, you know, like real, genuine. And I think that's what stands out for me with him. But yeah, we had a beautiful, as you know, we had a beautiful chat, and
it was like
it was just free flowing.
Yeah, no, you're right. Sorry, it was like, just to add to what you're saying, I was feeling like I was witnessing two spirits. I mean, you guys are very much still in this life, both looking like healthy and great. But it was like I was looking at two spirits in like the waiting room to heavens or whatever, like purgatory. Like, it was so stripped. It was just like at the end of the conversation, you were just like, it was like a fucking namaste, fucking proper.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and that's such a beautiful segue into where I'd love to like. Thank you so much for like indulging us as rugby fans. Just taking us there, and I'd love to get to closer to where you are now, because I know you've got so Rama Organica, as I've got it, is the retreat or sanctuary or the healing farm. You can also just help me right just now where you are now, and I've got a personal interest and curiosity. Look, and we don't have to make this a whole talk about ayahuasca specifically. It's just I listen to a lot of like, whether it's Joe Rogan's podcast or whether I've read up on lots of things. Like, I've got quite an open mind as well for someone that's like plugged into this world, but like my heart is like freaking, and my mind's also like in the universe, right? So bounded by the laws of this world, respect so, but like I do, at the risk of sounding pretentious, think we are, spirits, so, or like we were a geest, bro. We've got a body. You are a soul. You've got a body, kind of thing. So, after playing in Toulon and you went to Costa Rica, and we can like delve in or just hop on it, like the ayahuasca thing, was that like a thing for you, if you're comfortable to talk about it? Was that like you were already on a mental introspective journey and that was just part of it? Or was it like, people say like that thing like, oh, they had this trip and they changed their whole life, but you were kind of already on the path within yourself, and these things, like these almost like experiences you had, were all just like guides along the way. It wasn't like you had this one thing that was a switch, right?
Yeah, so that's an amazing question, because actually what you said was true. I had already started towards the end of my career, started to kind of dissolve some of that conditioning and that like real past of playing rugby and all of that. I'd already started to look inside and not like thinking, oh, okay, these answers are going to be out there. I started to look inside myself. And then once I'd stopped playing, I used to, obviously I drank some alcohol, but I'd already been in a process of letting that go. And once I got to the end of my career, like I had one last katoot with the team when they won the final and all of that. And then after that, the very next day, I remember I woke up and my whole body was just in pain. And I like inflammation, on my joints, on my, just everything. And I said to myself in that moment, I said, that's it. I'm shifting. And towards the end of my playing days, my soul was screaming out for change. It was like, oh, I need to shift this. I need a different flow in life. I need to go a different way and honor myself, honor my inner being. And so that very day I had that realization, and I did a 20-day juice and fruit fast. And I went straight onto it, and I lost 15 kgs within 15 days.
Wow.
So I just shedded completely. And in that process, I started, just shedding a lot of the things that I'd been carrying, a lot of energies that I'd absorbed, the things that I put into my body, all of that. So that was definitely the start of that process of kind of cleansing the bodies and then detoxifying after all of those years, like 15 years of playing. So when I arrived at that point, I saw one documentary on YouTube about ayahuasca. His name was Jan Koenen, and he went into the Amazon jungle, and they spoke about the hallucinations and about these realizations that come from this medicine. And so I had always had this kind of curiosity around medicine, and that there are other medicines in the natural world that aren't made by made by man, that exist for us and exist for our own transformation, our own inner growth and awakening. And so I had, like you said, I had already started to do the work, but when I arrived at the ayahuasca and I had a 1-week retreat, I had 3 ceremonies in the space of 6 days. And I can remember that for me, it literally was like a switch that like went off. Like I literally saw all of the happenings of my life up until that point, and I'd seen different aspects of my life where I hadn't been aligned with truth, and meaning that the things that I put into my body, maybe how I treated someone, how I hadn't forgiven myself for things that I'd done in the past,
100%.
and all of these things came up for me in these sessions, and so definitely when I came to that point where I eventually did have a massive purge, I realized it was in that moment that all of this was leaving my system, and all of this conditioning and all of this all of the stuff that I accumulated over all of these years was now exiting. And when that happened, I just remember like being down, monster purge, like bruh, and literally the helper, the server, he came to me and he tapped on my shoulder and he said, "You are the light, brother. You are the light."
That's so beautiful, bro.
And when he did that, I literally like I gathered myself and I kind of stood up and I looked at the universe. I looked at the stars, and it was just like they were shooting stars, and it was just like full like epic cinematic view of the universe. But it was like I was seeing it in a totally different way. And in that moment, I just then went down on my knees and I began to pray. And I just said, "Thank you, God. Thank you so much for bringing me to this point."
Wow.
Because I realized if I didn't get to that point, I may never have got to that point, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
And I realized, and I realized like how grateful, how much of a blessing it was how auspicious it was just to be there. And in that moment, I was just like, I'm praying for all the people that I hurt in my life, even if it, unconsciously, consciously, whatever way it was, I just want to forgive myself and I send out healing vibration to them, love to them. And so I prayed after that, but it was like, for days after that, it was enlightening. It was definitely like a realization that we aren't what you said. We aren't the body. We aren't our mind, psychological mind. We are spirit, and that there was that presence was there, and this joy, natural joy, which wasn't a happiness. It's not like, oh, I'm so happy. It was just a joy that came from inside of the heart that just radiated and kind of lasted for a long time after that. And so that allowed me then to, because this, I don't know if you've taken medicine before.
Not specifically ayahuasca. I haven't taken before. I'm very interested to know, like, because I've got my own shit like OCD and anxiety and stuff, but I'm so open, and I've been like quite experimental with things in my life, and I'm open. But I've kind of found out what kind of works for me, and I read up and I listen, and I'm open and I'm very introspective. And then at some stages I'm like, oh, but would ayahuasca sort me out forever? But then I'm like, it doesn't mean just by having that experience that you're never going to have challenges again in your life. Like, I'm sure you still have anxieties and ego challenges. Just because you've taken ayahuasca doesn't sort you out for life. It's a helper, but it's not like it doesn't erase everything in your sorted. I'm still, you still endure challenges, right?
You hit it on the head there. That's exactly the thing. It's like you go through these journeys, and it's hard work, and you got to dig deep, and you got to look inside. But there's a space where there's compassionate beings that are with you every step of the way, and that you have to do the work yourself. So you have to dig deep. But once you get through that friction and the light can come in and that passes, then you're in a different realm almost, in a sense, because you see, okay, consciously where I am, who I am. You start to really tap into a lot of things. And then from that process and those realizations that come through the medicine, you then put those practices into your daily life. So it kind of accelerates your growth. It can accelerate your spiritual path. But then what happens is you are the one responsible thereafter to put all of those, like, through practice, which can be like meditation, it can be yoga, it can be quieting the mind in different ways, it can be different spiritual practices that are then available. And normally what happens is the medicine actually tells you, because for me, what happens now with the medicine is it's the reminder of the truth of who we are. It's the reminder that you are presence, that you are love, that you are wisdom, compassion, peace, and joy.
Wow.
You are all of those. And when you're able to, with the medicine, you're able to really sense, and it's a sense that this beingness that exists, and there's within that there's all the essences of the soul, which are the things that I just mentioned, and those are actually our true nature. And so all of the other mind games and the the part of the ego that plays out, the anxieties, all of those things are not our true nature. But when I say that, I don't say it lightly, because everyone has their process that they need to go through, and anxieties exist and fear exists and all of these things.
And they still come up to you. You just see them, right?
Yeah. So I think what for me, what happens is that I don't see them as they're not me, if that makes sense. It's not.
They intrude.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know if you've ever like investigated with Ram Dass. He used to say, so he's a spiritual teacher. Like he passed away. I think he was almost 90 years old. He passed away, but he used to talk about it. And it's like, he used to talk about lust. So how he used to say that these neuroses come up for him. But because of the spiritual work that he was doing on himself, like sitting in meditation, being in silence, some of the spiritual practices that he engaged in allowed him to see from a different perspective as to where's my true place. And then when this comes up, identifying that I have the power in that moment to identify with those thoughts or that emotion, or I can let it pass. But like, that's maybe easier said than done if you've never done it before. So for a beginner person, yeah, they might say, but what do you mean I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotion? But when you start to do the practices, whether it's through plant medicines, whether it's through meditation, yoga, any one of these practices, that's essentially what it is. It's taking you into that place of being where you can then start to see the dynamic of how your mind's working, and what am I identifying with that's keeping me in a rut, or keeping me in a place that's not serving my highest good. And so when you start to get empower yourself like that through the practices, then you start to see, hey, there's maybe you even ignore your thoughts. There's practices where you ignore your thoughts. You literally, a thought will come up, you ignore it. It doesn't exist. And there's practices like that. So it's just, it's like a beautiful process I find in like kind of just breaking through, seeing through the veil of, seeing through the veil of who you truly are. And I must mention that there's a spiritual teacher, Sri Muji, he's one of the most incredible beings that's here to help us awaken to this truth of who we are. And this spiritual practice is actually inquiry into who am I.
Yes.
And that as it stands, I am, therefore I exist. And that is enough. Just by the fact that I am, I exist, that's enough. So it's like you're not in search of something. You realize that you already are, and that it's always been, and that is enough. And
Oh
so
man,
that allows.
sorry, no, I just fuck. I don't think you know, it's interesting how these things work. Like we approach you for a podcast, and now you've come like to, feels like you're doing spiritual work without, because it's just flowing through you. It's I see a psychologist from time to time, and she told me, she's amazing, and she told me like, in our mind, when you get these, as you say, these thoughts that try and grip us or get us attached that we don't necessarily want to identify with, she said a good thing to remember, a good metaphor is the clouds are not the sky. And your mind, your true nature is the sky. It's open, it's blue, it's vast, it's free. Clouds come and they go, but your vast mind, your spirit, your being is open and vast and blue and beautiful like the sky. The rest, you can just, they're going to be storms, they're going to be some fucking, I don't know what the hell's up with the Zoom thing, man. I feel like we're only diving now, and I haven't even got, but this thing's telling me like, I need to fucking, it's telling me we've got.
Stop. Do you want to send me another invitation and we go for another? We go for another.
Just like another 20 minutes, because I feel like you preaching the gospel here, brother. I'm going to send it right now.
Okay, let's do some more. And what I love, because I love what your analogy and what the lady, what the psychologist mentioned, because she's obviously very aware then of like the spiritual space too, the 100%. Transpersonal, 100%. Not just about psychology and working with the brain, but how can you go further than that, beyond?
Integrate it all.
Yeah.
That's what I see in you. And I can't stop now. I'm going to send it to you right now, because like,
okay,
I respect your time so much. Have a sip of water.
Yeah, have a sip.
Minutes, and we're just going to swim.
We go deeper. Okay, for sure.
Brother,
I like it, brother.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you're here, bro. It feels like the teaching. I'm just, can you hear me?
I got you, brother. There, straight.
I'm so appreciative, bro. I can't tell you. Like, I knew this was going to be special, right? And we just started scratching the surface then, and we started like respectfully, because I am interested in the whole, everything, like your whole life, and I see your spirit and things, and it felt like we just started dipping into late, because all of we were talking about the rugby and everything's super interesting, and now we step into like more like the essence and the truth and things, and that's when it like that's where I start like get excited, and it resonates with me on such a deep level, and it was just, I could see the clock was ticking, and I was like, what?
Oh damn.
Like the spirit, it felt like the teaching is just started. So I just say, like, I resonate with so much what you're saying, and I think just from a personal, like, not insecurity, a personal thing of mine, like I've often wondered, like I've watched lots of documentaries and things, like, is like ayahuasca the answer for me or whatever, and what's comforting to me is that I think is like, because I'm open to so many medicines and so many ways of thinking, and like my mother's partner is a doctor, he's a psychiatrist, but he reads up, and he's very into like Eastern philosophy and things, and he's open about, he'll research and investigate the shamanism and all these things. So it's not like, as you say, it's not like a singular discipline. He's about the bigger picture of truth, and what feels right. If I can like paraphrase like that. So for me, it's quite comforting to know that, yes, ayahuasca is a kind of like, the medicine is a teacher, but it's still up to you. And it teaches you things, but it doesn't mean, for instance, because I haven't done it yet, I am depriving myself of this, of eternal peace, because it's going to teach you things, but you're still going to be confronted with some intrusive thoughts, whether you've taken it or not. And then it's just like guiding, it's giving you tools to be able to navigate those earthly temptation, egoic things as harmoniously as possible. Where do you find yourself in terms of the the flow of peace versus whatever else there is?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because that's what it boils down to. I always think to myself that every day is kind of, there's always something spiritually that will present to us in our daily life. And as you say, you can have these realizations, you can have the awakenings, but that doesn't necessarily mean that now you're all of a sudden a whole person, or that you've realized your being. The fascinating thing about it is that, and Sri Muji always talks about it, but you can realize your true self in an instant. It's not something that has to take years to have that realization. You just need to be ripe for that moment for you to realize, or to touch the essence of yourself, the essence of your soul, and your true place. So that can happen within a flash. But obviously, with regard to like our past lives and what we've gone through, and if there's still some residue from a past life within inside that you need to work through, it can take longer. And maybe someone won't be spiritually ripe to awaken to their true self at that moment, but then there may be someone else who's very ready to wake up, and maybe they've had enough pain or suffering in their lives where they've gone through lives of this kind of suffering. I mean, it's part of it's part of our lives as human beings, is that we suffer, we're born, there's birth, there's rebirth, there's suffering, there's death, there's all of these things. So obviously we've been, if you do believe in reincarnation, we've been doing this for, like you said before, we probably met each other as dolphins, or
Yeah.
if if we were going, so so this is the fascinating thing about our lives and us as human beings. And but the ultimate truth and the realization of that, and I think it's like establishing in that as your true place, is a spiritual work and a daily practice. And things come up for us in our lives where we see maybe where we're holding on, or where we're attached, or where we haven't fully realized our true place, but we have recognized. And I think once you've recognized, then it's hard to, you can flip back and forth from the personhood, as he would say, the personhood and the being. Personhood is like your personal story. Like, we get so attached and in our minds about our personal story, and we forget that we are universal. We're beings, of electrical beings, and we've got we're multidimensional in a lot of ways, but we get caught in our personal story, and that becomes about personal. It's just personal, and it's not selfless in a way. It's just like, and that's no one's fault. It's neither wrong nor right. That's the beauty about the path, is that is not wrong and that is not right. It's just that and he also mentioned that, and I love to refer to him because that's where I get my reference. But the greatest, the greatest thing in the human kingdom is to recognize who you are. Wow. Truly. And if the search is there for that, then like, and there's not much, there's not much talking, there's not much word around it, in a sense, because it's just there. It is who we are. And so all of the chatter and the talk and all of that, at the end of the day,
but it's brilliant. And I thought this is so epic. So just, and this is definitely my own it feels like this is, that like cliche of like meant to be and all that, but it's like, this feels like me talking to you right now and you sharing this with me feels quite significant to me right now in a very healing way. And please, and I'd love to now just check in with you, like literally on a very practical level, like how does a day in your life look like now? But before we just get to like a normal day in your life, like just practically speaking, just because you have had these realizations and have had these experiences with medicine and it's so open, and like I can see you, man. I can see you. Whether fucking Richie Moanga is listening to this, whether it's like an Afrikaner guy from here, whether it's what I see you, I can hear you speaking from a place of humanity, bro. You've shedded so many layers, and as you say, there's no judgment, neither right nor wrong. But it doesn't mean, and you don't have to go into details. Like you're still a human being. I'm sure you haven't you haven't gotten the noise will always challenge one, right? I mean, just because you found peace to a level, it doesn't mean you are now the perfect human being in yourself. You've eternal bliss. You still have a human brain,
Bro. Exactly. And when you say that, it gives me a goosebump, because it's not about sitting here and like an act of like I'm playing this part of like I'm this like a realized being, or that you've had these awakenings, now you're somebody special. No, every single human being has that opportunity. And I'm not for 1 minute sitting here that and want to preach in that way and say that like that there's any distance between myself and you. We're the same.
yes.
And it's like it's like that's the thing, is that I think a lot of the spiritual teachers, when they get to that point, then the power, the money, all of these things come into play, and that's where you really see where the realness or the genuineness of that being is, because they have then transcended. Like this spiritual teacher, I really want you to go and have a look at him and some of his talks. His name is Sri Muji. He's got dreads. He's the essence of the self, the true self, and all of his teachings, it's imbued in grace.
I want to write this down.
Yeah. So his name is Sri Muji. So it's SRI, like Sri, and then Muji, Moogi.
Moogi. But does that mean you feel constant peace? Do you like?
No. That like in the ultimate truth.
Yes.
And the ultimate truth, I can't speak from his perspective, but I know that it's like you said, there's a frequency when a conversation, when someone's talking and they may be trying to talk about the true self or awakening, but there's a certain presence that you sense when that being is talking. You sense, you feel the truth. It's like, there's no 100%. There's no way of getting around it. It's 100%. The truth. This is what it is, and it's a fact. And so that is the key right there, because that is the transmission of the truth. So when you look into another being's eyes and you recognize that, it's like all of your pretenses, your beliefs, your concepts, they wither away. They don't exist, because it's like you're in the presence of that, and it just like burns away. It's not there. It doesn't exist. And that's what I felt when I met the spiritual teacher, Amma. I literally she came to Toulon, and she's a spiritual teacher. She basically, she's embodiment of the divine feminine Kali as well. Like the spirit Kali works through her, Krishna. Like she's a supremely powerful being, dude. Like and the way that I can explain it for how this transmission happened was that she, when her devotees basically line up, so she does a whole process, like she chants, then she speaks, and then after she spends 3 days in different parts of the world. She spent 3 days in Toulon, and she came there, and basically what it is it's a transmission of the divine, like the divine frequency, basically, because she holds so much of this inside of her that it, like, kind of the whole room radiates with this energy. And through the chanting, of course, it takes you to like elevated states of consciousness, and you don't need medicine or anything because you're just in this frequency. And I was blessed enough to go and see her, and everyone in the Toulon, basically I think there was about, over the 3 days, there was about 12,000 people that went to go and see her.
Yeah.
And she's been doing this, she does it all around the world, but she came to Toulon, and we were fortunate enough. So we sat and we were with her, and then what she does is she actually hugs each devotee and everyone that comes. She actually embraces every single person. So she basically hugs every single person that comes there. And we had been waiting in the line, and I just been like in presence, like seeing her. And when I got there, like my mind was going crazy before I got to actually be with her, and it was going like, oh, I wonder what she's gonna say. I wonder what it's gonna be like. All these thoughts. And when I got near to her, it was like no thoughts. And I just stood there. I stood there, and the guy was talking to me, and I couldn't hear what he was saying.
Wow.
And I was like, and then eventually, like, he got me to listen, and he said, go down on your knee because she wants to give you a hug. And I went down on my knee, and like I got embraced by her, and it was literally like the mother of the universe was just hugging me. And I got up and I just started to bawl, like crying, like, and all of this energy release was just going, and I was bawling my eyes out, and I was looking at her, and I couldn't understand the unbearable compassion that this woman, she spends days hugging people and giving them spiritual text and giving beyond what we even think we can give. She is like, and it gives me goosebumps right now, because that's what that frequency was, bro. It was like, this is the truth. Like, this is what the truth is, both. And mind stops. And that's not to say that the mind won't carry on, like, for us mere mortals, she's a completely fully realized being. So she's gone through different various stages of illumination, of awakening, and got to this point where just merely her frequency can change the whole world.
I wonder if she ever gets, like, if you can bathe in that. Look, I'm just absorbing, bro. I'm just like taking everything in, and I'm thinking, there's somewhere in me that I know exactly what you're talking about, right? And I don't mean that in a presumptuous way. I mean, like, you don't have to prove or argue the truth. You know it when you feel it. It's like it's like meeting someone that's present, authentic, kindness, pure generosity. Bro, humanity is so clear when you feel it. There's no noise, there's no proof. But what I'm envious is, and I think it's maybe unfair of me to like hope that you must give me this answer, it's not, but I think, like, it doesn't mean that. I think my mind, I'm thinking at times, I'm like, is ayahuasca going to sort out my anxiety forever? But it doesn't mean I'm understanding of the authenticity, and I've still got, and it's almost like you, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but do you think that lady or you still get the challenges of anxiety on a daily basis? You just manage it better, or do you think once you've gotten to that stage, you will be peaceful forever, and it's almost like you never experience anxiety ever again? Or do you experience it still, even though you are enlightened, in parenthesis?
Well, it's a fascinating thing, because there's that saying, before enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. After enlightenment, carrying wood, chopping water. Like,
Yes.
in that saying is the essence of what I perceive it to be, is that your universe you don't now all of a sudden have these massive things happen to you. I don't know. That's just the way, and I really love that quote, because I think that it actually depicts what that is. But because they always speak about, like, if someone knows that they're enlightened, or they think that they're enlightened, are they really enlightened?
Yes, because why would they be?
Because
why would they be pondering it?
Why would you be pondering it if it already is? So it's like, to go back to your question, I feel like those beings, like, they have reached a point in their realization that when thoughts like that, the thoughts they don't mean anything. So it's like, when they do arise, it's arising from a pure mind, and a pure mind has only thoughts of grace and God and divinity. So how, our minds, our mere mortal minds, of like what arises for us on a daily basis, as you say, anxiety, stresses, different things come
You
up
still
for us.
experience, as Joe van Niekerk, because I relate to your amazing posts you make, it's like you still experience the ego and the mind making some noise every now and again.
Brother, with the thing about, like, going back onto the social network, that's a big wake up as well, because all of a sudden now, what do we see on these social networks? We see an image, but we are still a human that, excuse my French, but we still go to the toilet and cuck.
Yeah.
We still have our daily issues. We still suffer. We still, there's a part of that whole world which needs to be explored and shared. And I feel like I want to eventually, on my website, I want to engage into those kind of topics, because for me, that's what it essentially, our humaneness is being shown in a way on those platforms as like the perfect world, and that we all, like, we look image wise, we look perfect, and it's like, it's all good, and it's like, but the part of me being there is to share the truth of the experiences that I've had.
Yes.
And so, but I'm also well aware that, beautiful pictures, it's like, it's an optical illusion.
Yeah.
Because actually, when we wake up in the morning, first thing in the morning, you're telling me some of these beings look like manifestations of God. Yes, they are, but they look perfect.
Yes.
And the pictures look perfect. It's all this kind of, in a way, a little superficial.
But
And so,
yeah.
so we still engage, and it's still there, and we can use it as a platform, I think, to inspire change.
100%.
But it's how we use that. And then my thing that drives me is to really get into the discussion of, like, us as human beings,
100%.
that we have this image that, yes, it's great, there's beautiful beings out there, and they must use that as much as they can, and it's their path. But it's also that, the realness or the genuineness of, like, our humanity, and that we don't always look good. So it's like, let's find the happy medium there, of where we can share the truth and also have a beautiful feed. Don't get me wrong, I love the artistic part of that, and creating content and doing those things. But that's where I want to go with the website. Like, I want to go into discussions and things around that, around specific points.
Yeah, sorry. No, I just relate to what you're saying.
No.
It's like, because let's say I can go on your Instagram, I see this photo and you look epic, and it's epic, and it's like you speak with so much truth, and then that's not because you're putting out a perfect vibe in parenthesis. It's it seems amazing because it's actually embracing the imperfections of being human. It's actually the fact that you're like, it's the fact that you're like, I understand, like, the truth is the vulnerability is the vulnerability of like it all is the truth, and you embrace that part. So it's almost like it's just like, I think I connect to what you do, because you're not pretending to be superhuman. You're pretending to be you're not pretending anything. You embrace the fact that you're more human, and that means more vulnerable, more real, and it's just I see it, bro, and sometimes I wonder if I'm just envious sometimes, because I think like maybe some people never get to a place where they've had certain experiences with, whether it's with medicine or whatever, where they never ever get challenged. Like, I'm trying to figure out if I'm ever going to get over my anxiety, and whether I should like go to South America, and whether it's Costa Rica or somewhere, and try this, and then I'm going to be like in blissful state forever. But I suppose you are still going to be confronted by the mind on a daily basis, always.
Well, that's exactly that's part of this process of like every day, because actually it's like what you said, we where I can speak from is just my experience and where I've been. And so that's not about like so much as saying, oh, look at me, like where it's about reflecting on the things where in our lives, hard things that we've had to deal with, you know, whether we've lost people in our lives, whether it's the anxiousness that comes up for us, the fear, all of these things. It's about what you said. It's about your humaneness. It's about like being a human being on planet Earth. You know, that it's not all just a bed of roses. But I realized through the recognition of being that most of those tendencies and pretenses and beliefs and concepts and all of those things, when we start to perceive those things from our true place, then we realize like, okay, I know, like I know that I am compassion. I know that I am love. I know, like I know this in my heart. Like, and so those essences that we are, whether our mind is going to keep going, and probably till the day that we die, it's going to keep bringing new things to the fore. But the thing is, the more that we cleanse and the more that we purify our intentions, our hearts, our you know, our thoughts, our words, and our actions, the more we purify those, the more that what will arise will not be the same thoughts that we knew 10 years ago. It will be, they'll be cleansed. We'll start to cleanse. And through that process, the recognition, we will be more with that recognition. And that whenever other these thoughts come to kind of, you know, I didn't finish the story about the neuroses.
Sorry.
Is like how he used to speak about that, Ram Dass. So he was also a saint, and what he used to talk about was that when lust, he used to react to his lust. So when lust came up in his physical being, he'll be like, I have to follow through with this. And he used to make this joke around it. He used to say, like a beautiful manifestation of God, a beautiful being came and he said, hey, do you want to go and see my holy pictures? You know, like, and stuff like, but make a joke of it, because he's actually showing us that he's a human being, that these things come up for us in our lives. Lust, neuroses, different neuroses, things come up for us. And that we, you know, that when we can invite our neuroses in and have a tea with them and be, you know, see them for what they are, then they slowly can start to fade, because you're not going to react to the same way, but you're going to see, okay, this is just playing out.
That's so true. They come for tea, and then they're like, if you don't fight them, if they come for tea, if you don't fight them, they're kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna walk off, and they're like, go out of the door, and then they keep on cruising, and you're like, oh well, okay, flow. You know, it's like that's so cool. It's like my mom's part of Peter also said, like, he said, you're not responsible, and this was such a powerful thing for me. Maybe you'll be able to. I know you'll understand. He was like, your mind is like an empty room, right? And you aren't like people will come and go, can pass through. People pass through are like your thoughts. Your thoughts are like people passing through, and you aren't responsible. Let's say I have a bad thought. You're not responsible for your thoughts. Your mind's like an empty room. They come, and then it's not like if there's a bad thought, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. They come up for everyone, and then they can have tea or not, and you can let them go, and then they just walk on, whatever. And then if a nice thought comes and they come and have tea, you can enjoy their conversation for a while, and it spills over, whatever. But the empty space in the empty room is still the peaceful. That's still that's still a calm space.
And that's exactly the thing around the suffering's optional. It's like, you know, suffering, we may experience physical pain, but then what are we adding from a psychological point of view to that pain that keeps us in a loop of suffering? And so that's another beautiful teaching too, is like, who's suffering? Because we don't know, we don't ask ourselves that question. A lot of times when I've watched satsang, which is like these truth gatherings, people get together and they ask the master these questions, and he says, well, the person may go into a long story about their suffering and their pain and all of this, but then they don't essentially question in to who is suffering. Because if you can find someone actually suffering there, then you would have won a gold medal. I don't know, because it doesn't exist. If you really question and look into that question, who is suffering? And that's what he points to. He points to that, like, who's the one that's suffering? And a lot of times the people have realization, because they realize that there's actually not anyone there suffering. Yes, we can have physical pain. I go through physical pain on a daily basis, and I know that, okay, if I've got pain in my body, I know there's a bombardment of psychological thoughts that are attached to that pain. And when those thoughts arise, I have the power in that moment to either continue listening to those thoughts and agreeing with them and identifying with them, or I can look at them and say, oh, it's the same old story again, and let it pass. And that's what we're talking about with the neuroses and what you know. So
you're you've got you are fuck it, Joe. You're a force, man. You're a powerful force, bro. And you're giving you. I just want to thank you, because the Amma, or the lady the lady in Toulon.
yeah,
You're doing that as well, man. You're doing that as well, man. You're doing it. The fact that you're not giving me a physical hug, it doesn't matter. You're doing it, dude. You're doing it, and I know it's also, and that's why I've got like a thing that I just thought, like, which is just a fun thing, because I know when you really engage, and I know it's also it can invigorate you, but I also realize you're sharing your spirit, and there's an intensity to it. So I don't want to, as I said, I respect your time, and I don't want to sap you, but I just want to say thank you first, because you are doing healing work, man. Whatever, like, all your intention, that's also what I just want to, like, and I don't know, you're not on a path where you need validation, but I just want to commend you for the fact that what you feel, the intention that you feel, that you hope what you're doing, and feel, you know, that conviction, that inner conviction that you have, like, I know this is my intention, and I hope I put it out there. I can tell you, I see it clear as daylight. and I appreciate it clear as daylight. And I know there's lots more. And anyone who doesn't, and there's no hate or judgment towards them. But I know we all have our own things, you know, maybe you're not in a space where you can see or witness that, and that's also fine. Maybe that's also fine. And I'm no judgment, we're on different paths. All I can say is, bro, I see your spirit fucking shining. You are the light.
Brother, wow. You know, this is it. This is it, my bro.
This is it, brother.
This is it, brother. This is why we're meeting today, bro. Because every time you can sit in a space, there's no judgment, there's just being, and there's questions that come up like in all of us. And it's like when you can sit in this space, then when there's no judgment, it's like then the healing can really begin, and then we can just be with each other, and then the transmission of our different paths and where you've been and you being able to relate with me. Obviously this meeting was truly meant to happen, and I do believe in that. I do believe that there's a reason why we're having this conversation.
I believe so too, man.
You know, and so for you being able to listening is also a key, man. Like you know, that a lot of times we may hear ourselves talking, and I really want to be more conscious in my own life about listening, because listening is like when we truly can listen with our being. It's different from just listening intellectually, you know. And when I can listen with my being and I can hear you out, then the healing's immense, because then it's not like, oh, I'm listening to you from an intellectual standpoint and now I've got to answer back to you intellectually. I'm here with you, and we're here together in the space, and we're creating the space.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's the power of this kind of space, because there's no, like, as I said, judgment earlier. So it's like, it's not coming from that the egotistical, that's part of us. It's like heart, and it's like, okay,
100%.
you know,
dude, I want to commend you. You're an excellent listener, because I can see it every time. It's like, you know, they say, like, all people's respect to everyone's experiences. Like when people are, let's say, we don't have to divulge any of our own experiences here, but I know there's like, you know, when two people on cocaine, for instance, would speak to each other, it's often like they would speak and the person would wait for their turn to just, the other person's speaking, but the other one's actually just wants to wait so that they can get a chance to sound impressive. But like, this is the opposite of that, because it's almost like, I can see when I speak to you, you don't wait for me to finish so that you can just sound better than I can. It's not an ego battle. As you say, it's nothing and everything. Like, and you are, and I'm not envious. I congratulate you and I learn from you, because I look at you and I speak to you and I can see you take it in. And that's when you go like, oof, I can see, because you resonates, bro. It lands. It connects. It connects.
That's it. That's you, bro. That's you. That's why we are reflections of each other.
100%.
And that's the fact, man. Like, whatever's happened in the past, whatever's been wrong or right, or what we thought was good or bad, any of this shit, it actually doesn't matter, because we are sitting here in a truthful conversation, sharing with each other, listening in respect, and there's like love at the base of that, you know. And so it's that's what makes it a joy when you can be in that presence, because there's nothing, there's no competition. There's no competition.
There's nothing, like you said earlier, there's nothing and everything. It just is. You know what? You know what's so powerful? I forgot. I don't even look at the notes I'm at. And you know what I want to do? I actually, because I've got so much honor, and I know you're going to feel what I'm saying, and it just feels so right. And I can, as well, even on top of that, I can see your generosity in terms of time and patience and everything, that you're willing to go there. But I was thinking, oh, I want to do this quick fire round and talk about your day life. But you know what? The level we are on now, I don't feel like I'm going to cheapen it by going back to the world. I'm not. I know we can. But I just want to honor this moment and almost like thank you for where we are now, and then stay in this beauty and bless your day and bless my evening and say, like, brother, let's not even go into any more detail. And that I can speak forever, but I'm like, I fucking love you, brother. And I just want to, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to go back to, not back, but I've got like, is there, what do you think happens after death? And what's the meaning of life? Your favorite food and your favorite emoji? Like, is regret and what makes you happy and dreams for the future and what's your daily basis? But brother, I think we've found an authentic space, and I didn't even realize we weren't looking for it. It found us, bro. And I appreciate you so much. I see you. I appreciate you. You're an eternal spirit, brother. And thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And maybe what I'd love to, just on a very practical level, I'd love to one day fucking come and, I don't even know how it works, pay for a visit and come and fucking stay in a house there in the jungle in Rama Organica. I don't know how it works. Maybe you can some stage just, yeah, but you're an epic man.
Oh, brother, I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate your willingness and your honesty and just where you're at as well, and sharing, you know, through that truth of who we are. And as I said, like, to be in that space is like an honor, like you said before. And so I had remembered that when I started to go through all these spiritual processes, I would listen sometimes to the truth, and I'd listen to Sri Muji talk, and it would bring tears to my eyes. And literally, like, you know that whatever you've been through, and for many years I denied my soul, man. I denied,
Wow.
like, I was in conflict with it for a long time.
Wow.
Because I was literally doing certain processes where it had been done. It was done.
Yes.
And I needed to chop it, but I was still in the game and I was still doing. So I continued. And you know that feeling when you're kind of going against like what you sense is right for you.
100%.
It's like a conflict that's created. But through that conflict and through that is massive transformation.
Yes.
And I'll never forget it, bro. Like, I was driving down to the beach. I'd started my practices, like yogi practices, like waking up at 4 a.m, taking a cold bath,
Wow.
going and doing meditation for 30 minutes, then going down to the beach, doing sun gazing,
Wow.
coming back, doing chanting and meditation and studying spiritual work and things like this. I for a very long time, I had felt like I was in, like God was, whatever you want to call God.
Yes.
I had been in a tussle, like not entirely honoring where I knew I should be. And I had thought to myself, well, the thought came, you've turned your back on God. You turned your back. And I had this realization. I was driving down to the beach. I kept purifying, and I'd listen to this Bhagavan Das. It's called The Dark Lord. It's this like where he chants, and he has, I think it's about 12 tracks, but they're super profound. And the one track is called Bruma, I think, or something like this. But it was like these tracks. And what I'd do is I'd go down. So I'd wake up, I'd do that whole ritual. Then I'd go down to the beach and I would do some sun gazing. And when I was driving down, this realization popped into my mind that spirit had never turned its back on me. It was that part of me that was denying that was continuing with the same process and keep pushing forward with that. And when I realized that, I just broke down in tears, because I was down again, and I just realized that like spirit never turns its back on you. It is you.
Oh,
And you, it's
beautiful.
not, it's just your mind. It's just your mind that says, oh yeah, like that happened, or that spirit turned its back on me, or God turned his back on me. But then when I realized that it was actually that part of me that was denying that, I had that realization, and I just broke down, and it released a lot of like that struggle that I had, and that then I could now honor myself eventually, and honor my true place. And that's what brought me here. That's
Yeah.
what brought me here to Costa Rica. All of that.
Dude, this this is profound. This is very special. This is very, 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 very special. Is Rama Organica a place that people can come visit or come to or come?
Yeah. So right now, obviously, with all
Yeah, I mean, yes,
the risk,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. In we've held different retreats here at the farm. The one retreat that we run is called Whole Life Transformation, and it's like, bro, it's a really profound whole life transformation. It literally is that, because it's 3 journeys, but this medicine is some of the purest medicine you ever could taste in your life. And it's the frequency, it's the high frequency of this place. So, and this medicine is so sacred. And so when we sit, it's like a week sitting with the most integral shaman you can meet. Truth, boundless amounts of truth, and living a daily life in line with that. And just like, and also the transmission is like, whoa, it's dead spot on truth. It's,
I can.
and so he leads you through this week, and we held it here, and then there's a temple here in the valley, and it's his temple. And so we hold different spiritual works. It's called spiritual works, and there's musicians, and we go through these processes where things come up for people, and the medicine, and basically what it does is it cleans up everything.
So it won't.
And
Yes.
yeah, and so so then you have 3 sittings with the medicine, and you arrive at your 3rd sitting, and it's done in a very special place.
Oh my
So
God.
it's held here in the healing sanctuary where we're at, and then held at the temple, and then up in the caves in this valley. So it's a whole life transformation. It's literally you come. I've seen people's transformation, bro. Like, I've seen it. Like, they come in here, they walk in these front gates, and they're like this. Like, gives me the greatest joy in the world. It's like they walk in, and you can see like the tightness. They come from the city, and it's like you can feel, and then they know everything. It's like they come and they talk to you, but they're like, I know that. Like, I'm fine. They're on their phones, like all the shit. And I just sit there, and I'm just like, I'm just observing,
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, see, yeah, you're gonna go through a good journey. It's gonna be good. And it's like, but you can feel the heavy, strong kind of hold of the ego in a way, like when I say that psychological part of the mind that's like still holding on.
Yes.
And then the once they go through the first session, slowly, like, they just start dissolving, and then the second session, more dissolving, and then by the 3rd session, it's like a completely different human. They're not talking anymore. They're silent. They're smiling.
Wow.
They've had all these realizations.
Wow.
It's like it's the most incredible thing to witness. I say it's like that's one of the biggest joys.
Yes, it's so beautiful that you can facilitate that as well. I'm gonna check out, and I know lockdown and these world traveling and everything, but so I want to I've got this, and then this is the final thing, and then I'm gonna let you go and the rest, and just be very, very grateful for this. But so it won't. My question just it won't, because I think because there's maybe a fear I can get, like with like whether it's marijuana or whatever. I've got a thing where I can like get so in my mind, and I've got a very free mind and heart, but also like anxiety. I can hold on to it, so I'm kind of scared of it, even though I'm open to it. And then I'm like, but it's not gonna. The whole transformation, it won't kill the beautiful things. Let's say because I'm insanely grateful and I love my girlfriend so much. She is a force of truth, like unbelievably. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, but the ayahuasca, the ceremony won't like mess up, not mess up. I mean, like change my mind, that I would like come out and I'm like, no, I don't love you anymore, because suddenly I'm a completely different person. It'll probably just highlight what is truthful. Hey, right, if I love her already, it'll probably just like purify that and take away some of the noises that maybe I introduce into the daily life, whatever. It doesn't change what is good. That's my question.
So yeah, so the thing that I always think about that is that the medicine itself is very mysterious, and so one can never really tell what may come up, because you start to see the universe in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And you start to see whatever comes up for you. It like works, it scans through your body, and then it goes to parts where there may be stagnant energy or things that need healing.
Yes.
And then it will go through those, like there'll be friction. Yes. So there'll be a lot of maybe thought, like saying, oh, what have I got myself into? Where am I? What is this? And all these kind of fears that may arise, or doubts. But generally, yeah, I feel that within the space, when it's held in the container that it's held in, it's a sacred space. So the frequency is already a very like divine frequency. So any kind of these things that need to come up to be seen and let go of, it can take time. It may not be an instant thing, but it could be a process, or it could be an instant thing. So it's very mysterious in that way. And I couldn't actually tell you.
Yeah.
I just know that this medicine is very loving.
Yes.
Like the essence of what we are. It's all of those things.
Yes.
And I find a lot of times after the sessions is this like a wave of optimism. Yes. And like it's like the blood of Pachamama, it's the blood of Pachamama. So I feel kind of like that presence that we are too. It's always just a reminder of like the joy, the presence, that essence. It's a reminder of that. And obviously, if you've never taken medicine before, there could be other things that may come up. I would just say the best thing to do if you're on any meds or things like this, to not be on those meds like for at least some time before those ceremonies. But Joy, if you ask me, will it change my feeling about my girlfriend? I wouldn't suspect that.
It's probably just going to make me. It's just going to probably highlight the
pure. More grateful.
It's going to make me more grateful and even more empathetic of like how I can be so grateful and in awe. I feel it's just going to magnify that.
Yeah, and I think that like your it sounds to me like some of your gifts are your gratitude, and because that's a very powerful frequency, gratitude, because it's very easy to be like, oh, whatever, like so many things in my life, I want more, or I need more, and all of these things. But when you really truly are grateful, even for some small things, like even for the air that I breathe, but I can really tap into that frequency and be like, I am flipping grateful for that, because if I didn't receive that, I wouldn't be here. And you can go into these things and multiply and kind of increase that frequency. You would know this, because I can see that you are very grateful human being, and I see that as an incredible trait, to be able to be humble and grateful for this life, for everything in this life.
Joe van Niekerk, man, if you don't mind me saying it, I've got so much respect and love for the person, the being and the spirit that you are. I want to tell you, you must have a beautiful day, and may the
Mm.
goodness that you radiate and you put out there come back to you, and because it will, the generosity that you put out is coming back to you. You look, you're glowing, man. You look so good.
Ah,
And I just want to send you love and appreciation. You've come like it sounds ridiculous, but like in the spirit world, it feels like I've been blessed, man, and I appreciate you.
ah.
And I just want to say thank you, and have an awesome, strong, abundant day.
PD, same for me, bro. Same for me, brother. Like, it's rare that you come onto these podcasts and you really another being comprehends the spiritual part in the way that you do, and so you've really you've got a ton of you've grown a ton in terms of your spirituality, and I see you grasp a lot of this, and that heart that's inside of you is inside of me, and that's where we need to live from as much as we can. And even if these anxieties and these things come to attack us, just remember the neuroses and have a little chuckle about it, because what actually at the end of the day is we are human beings. I still believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience as opposed to the other way around. And that's just the reminder once again, go back to spirit, because that's where it's at. That's who we are. And through that process, all of these anxieties and feelings of doubt or whatever they may be can be absolved, and you can actually see more and more that actually what the story is that's playing out on a personal level is just that. That's all it is. And it's only the attention that we give those things truly from our true place that give it any meaning. So I can understand, and I don't want to delve more into like a psychological level, because I know that a lot happens on that psychological plane. But I can just say that, brother, you're the truth, you're the light, you're the love, you're the compassion, the wisdom, the joy, all of those things. You are that. So keep radiating that light, because you as much as we have this connection, that is necessary for humanity right now. So your part in that is totally divine, and keep spreading that light, because I felt that the minute that I saw you, bro.
Really? I felt
Yeah,
it, bro.
I did. I felt your frequency, your energy, your love in your heart. Keep shining that. People are gonna come and be jealous. People are gonna come and say, "Oh, PD," like
Yeah,
they're gonna come with stuff, dude. That's natural.
that's
But
worldly.
just
Yeah,
worldly, dude, just keep radiating that, because that love is so infectious.
dude, brother. I love your spirit, and someday we've met, we've connected, we are connected. The connection is open, and just like appreciation, brother, and force and light and beauty to you. I appreciate you, and we're gonna see each other because
It's
we might,
happening.
bro. It's happening. It's all happening.
And what I want to ask you, I don't know how you share, where you'll be sharing the pod.
Yes,
If maybe I can share it to my
please,
viewers, and
please,
we
bro.
do like maybe on your thing, if you can just refer them to Jungle Joe, then we can work
Dude,
together
bro.
to,
I'm
and we
gonna
do some stories and stuff. Yeah.
please. As the thing is, the bigger we can, with the further we can spread truth and kindness and authenticity, the better. So what I'm gonna do is, and I'm so glad you brought it up. So what I'll do is tomorrow, I'm just gonna put it like an
Cut
intro
it.
and just say like we've had this special experience, and then probably by like I'm probably because I'm so passionate and excited, I'm probably gonna like already upload the link and everything if you want to and if you can, because you've got such powerful photos, and I don't want to go on Google and just get like a screenshot, a random thing which is not good quality. If you've got like a photo of whether it's a JPEG or what, any form, you can just send that whenever you get a chance in the next day or two to that email address that you got a link from, the Piet Beyers email address at gmail.com. Then I'm gonna want to post that on my Instagram with like, just say I want to post your photo of the whatever you want to send me. You can send me 1 or 2 photos, whatever, however you want to put yourself out there. I'm going to send you the link for the podcast. I'm going to put it in my bio on Instagram. I'm going to share it on Facebook. And there will be no pressure. You don't have to do anything with it. But I want it to fly as you are flying and I'm flying. And I'm going to send it all to you. So I'm gonna if I'm already following you on Instagram, I'll send you a message.
I'm gonna follow you guys, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, but if you can, whenever you get a chance, just send a photo how you want to put yourself out there to my email address, pietbuyers@gmail.com. It's there on the link thing.
Okay, I'll send you like maybe 2 or 3, and then you just choose which one you want.
And then probably tomorrow I'm going to send you the link. Brother, I can't thank you enough. Much love, peace, and blessings.
Blessings, my brother. Have a beautiful evening further. Much
You
love,
too,
bro.
champion. Love you, brother. Keep well.
Love you, brother. We'll chat soon. We're in connection now.
We are. Lekker.
Cheers, my boy.
Cheers.